Hey guys. Alright, I thought we'd do something a little bit different today. I'm dressed for work. I'm going to be headed out here pretty soon. But I thought that I would start doing a little story time thing for you guys. Obviously, before GoPros were around, people were fishing. And when I was younger, never had a camera or anything with me. Well, I can't say that. I used to carry a little disposable camera just in case I caught that massive fish that I was always trying to catch. But anyway, at a certain point, didn't have a cell phone, didn't have camera, didn't have a little video recorder. But so I thought maybe we'd do some stories from back before all that stuff. But when I was a kid, I used to fish place in Virginia. It was in Colonial Heights, Virginia, right outside of Richmond, and that's where I spent about half my life growing up, right there in the city. But there was a creek that I used to go down to, and it was called Swift Creek. Anyway, on Swift Creek was tied into the James River, and the James River is obviously tied into the Chesapeake Bay out to the ocean. So we used to get striper, and I'm talking, I mean, most of the striper that would come up in there weren't huge, but you would get an occasional 36-inch striper. Biggest I think I ever saw anybody pull out of there was maybe 40 inches. I mean, which is a really big striper. But anyway, the gar used to come up in there. The gar were, I mean, they were huge. But anyway, we used to fish that, and I used to walk down there, or I'd ride my bike. Usually I walk down, and it was probably a good 12-minute walk, because you had to go back this dirt road, back down around, down a hill, then you had to come down to the creek, and then you could walk the whole creek. And I actually used to wade in the creek, but if you waded in the creek, you had to watch out for moccasins, copperheads on the banks. It was just wasn't very safe, but it was a lot of fun if you guys ever fished little creeks like that. But I mean, the fish that we used to catch out of there were crazy. We could catch catfish, and the catfish in Virginia get pretty big. Catfish, bluegill, all kinds of bluegill, different kinds of brim, basically. You'd catch red ear sunfish, you'd catch bluegill, warmouth. I mean, you name the brim and you could catch it out of there. We used to catch crappie in there, crappie, however you want to say it. We used to catch ring perch, yellow perch, same thing. Herring, hickory shad used to run up in there. I mean, just about anything. The big story that I wanted to tell you guys today was there was a it was right by, there was a boat launch, and there was a little peninsula that came out, just a little point. And there were always fish right around there. That's pretty much where I learned to fish a point, because I noticed over the years fishing that there were always fish on that point, whether it be like little bluegill or I actually saw catfish there before. Bass, the bass used to sit there, but on the other side of that little point, there were two logs, and the logs, let's see, from your point of view, the logs would have sat like that. So right up in that triangle, every once in a while you would see some sort of fish laying there. Usually it was a bass. Well, for a while there was a huge largemouth sitting right in there. And now he didn't always sit in there, depending on the way the water was running, because again, since it was Chesapeake Bay, James River, Swift Creek, which is a tributary, we used to get, the tide would come in, the tide would go out. Tide would come in, tide would go out. So the water levels in there on this particular section, that was the beginning of what we called the rapids, because the water would drain out. There was a deep hole on this side, but there was a lot of riffraff right here, and there were I don't want to say boulders, but there were rocks about that big that were part of that rapid system right there. So on the rapids, right as they began, those two logs were there. So for a while, I kept trying to catch this bass through every single thing that my lawnmower money would buy, which was Terminator spinnerbaits. When Spitting Images first came out, you know, the head and Spitting Image, spooks, jigs. Actually lost jigs on the log. I was young and stupid. Plastic worms. This bass never hit anything. So it built up sort of a reputation as the bass that you couldn't catch. And when you look at it in the water, it's kind of hard to tell how big a fish is in the water. They tend to throw you off a little bit. But let's see, my brother and I and one of our friends, we all tried catching this fish. One day I was actually working and this was on my ultralight, because that's what I used to usually fish in the creek. Using my ultralight, and I was fishing a crick hopper, a Rebel crick hopper. And it was in that, the light brown color. It's like a beige color with black markings on it. But I was tossing that out, and the crick hoppers look like a grasshopper. But the crick hoppers, the way that you can fish those is you can either crank them in like a little crankbait, and they look like a minnow. You can twitch them on the top. But this particular day, I tossed out right above where those logs came to the point, and I swung that crick hopper in there and brought it in over top of the one log, and then just jerked it to get it to crank down more. When I did that, that big bass turned, looked at it, and just like that, went over, and I actually watched him go bloop like that, and he inhaled the thing. I set the hook, and then it wasn't like a 30-minute fight, but on that little ultralight, it was do you guys remember the Berkeley Lightning rods? I think they still make them, but this was like the original when they first came out. I think you bought them in Walmart for like $20 or something like that, and they had a lifetime warranty on them as long as you took them back to the Walmart, which I did a couple times from breaking them. Anyway, I set the hook, and it was probably a good 9-minute fight on that little ultralight. Actually took him down around that little point I was telling you about to the boat launch, lipped him, got him out of the water. I was so excited. Ran up, because my grandmother was fishing for catfish. Her and I used to go fishing together, which I miss. But anyway, ran up, showed her this 5-pound bass, and she was so excited, and I was excited. Got it back in the water, revived it, let it go, and actually I saw that bass, tried to catch it again, later on, and it was sitting right off of that log from time to time. Could never catch it again. But anyway, that's the story for today. If you guys like this, remember to hit the like button, comment down below, hit the subscribe button, please. And if you really like this, and I see in the comments that you guys are digging this, then I will maybe do I'm thinking like every Friday do a little story time session. I got plenty of stories for fishing and hunting. But anyway, thanks guys. Take care.